Hello, everyone. It is March 26th of 2026, in the year of our Lord and Savior, Mr. Cannon. As maybe you've heard over the last several weeks, we had a king's bet on the line. And it's not the man from the kingdom who had a queen and now a king that is now being knighted yet, or anointed by the gods as Royal Highness, but actually Mr. Cannon, who in the face of all ridicule and all disaster and a 0-3 shellacking by BLG, he stood firm with his belief in G2 and in European supremacy at an international event. And he did, despite having hearing issues and seeing issues last week, see the future as we welcome in King YamatoCannon with Jamada. Birthday boy, but just Jamada.
Hey,
Mr. Cannon.
hey.
King Cannon.
First and foremost, we have to get the pleasantries out of the way. Happy birthday, Yamato.
Thank you,
And-
man. Thank you.
And I had no idea. I couldn't predict what the details were. Better than Lion,
no.
but not better than the entirety of LCK.
Yeah.
Right? But let's just pretend that's why I was had such conviction
Okay.
in the King's bet. Yes.
Yamato was being anointed by many different names by Jamada in our group chat.
Oh yeah.
During
Do you want to list
during
some of
the
them?
match.
I got
Yeah.
quite creative towards the end.
You did. So before we even, the match was finished, it was King Yamato, obviously. Sire, Your Grace, My Lord, Your Majesty, Your Highness. And then we started getting a little saucy. Emperor, Pharaoh. I don't even know how to say this
Careful
one.
with this one.
Pharaoh.
Is-
That's ethnic as well. Yeah. Okay.
You're welcome, bro. You're welcome. Check the next one though. Check the next one. Go on, dGon. Say it how it's spelled. And I'm here as your safety net, regardless. You're good, bro.
All right. I would say Negus. Is that right? is it-
Say it like it's an I or a double E.
I'm good.
That is.
See, Yamato, you should know this one. Actually,
What is
as a
this
matter
one
of fact,
from?
this is it's a title from West Africa. Negus. For those unaware. little less culture.
Negus.
There you go.
I will
Just,
live life not ever saying that. And I'll be fine.
As soon as he said, "I'm your safety net," I got like flashbacks to like 7th grade track team with the homies being like,
Yeah.
"Don't worry, dGon, you can say you're my boy." I was like, "No, I'm good. Just hand me the baton, bro." Let's see what else. What else we had here? Sultan.
Yep.
Khan.
Yep.
Kaiser.
Mhm.
And then I threw out Yahweh Yamato. There it is. Yahweh Yamato or the Kaiser Cannon. Those are the two there. Yamato winning the King's bet will be called by Jamada. King
Many of these
or
titles.
something of that sort. Various titles. For the crazy prediction here of G2 making it further than Lion, and then inexplicably making it further than all of the LCK after taking them both down. They didn't even take the easy route. They got the job done
like
as first stand is complete.
that's the thing. I felt kind of bad about the bet once we saw the groups because we made the bet before we saw the groups. But then I was like, you know what? Maybe they do something freaky. Maybe Gen.G slip up a bit. But then once G2 3-0'd BFX, I was like, okay, hold on.
No.
And then they 3-0'd Gen.G, and I was like, okay, it's over. There's no there's no argument to be made anymore. Like he's just won. It doesn't matter what Lion do. Even if they beat Gen.G, it's like no, like you can't physically fight that corner anymore.
I mean, let's just start there. That's going to be the story of this this first stand. That's going to be how this first stand's remembered. Yes, BLG won. They were solid. You could see the growth in the team throughout. It's their first organizational victory. We will celebrate all those successes, but also, especially for the fans here in the West, this is the best tournament result in such a long time for Europe, in a time where, just last week we were talking about, is LEC going to be okay? The matches are potentially going online. What is going to happen with the region? Shifters. What does this mean to Europe, in your opinion here, Yamato?
In my mind, I think this has such a profound impact on like league esports as a whole, because just to zoom out before I just zoom in on Europe, the fact that the LPL won a title and the fact that Gen.G lost, the main thing in that context is I do think a world where Gen.G wins internationals and win everything is the most boring version of League of Legends for the average viewer. I love to watch Gen.G like Smurf and love to see them play really, really good. But for the average viewer, they want to come into every tournament feeling like there's hope. Right before this 2-day period where G2 beat 2 LCK teams, there was very little hope. Like hope was it was a rough commodity. It was done. We're talking about changing formats, changing how seeds work, and I think it came from a very, very pragmatic position, not a crazy position at all, to have to say that there is a massive widening of the gap. Because for all we know, maybe G2 in Europe gets just murdered for the next 3 years. But it will be fine, because the copium is just on full stock in the cellar, and this is something to lean on to for such a long time. Because in terms of significance, it's like everyone has much more reason now to tune in, because maybe your favorite team can win. There's not going to be like only LCK dominance, because suddenly MSI is looking to be like the most exciting tournament ever. We get to see G2 again. We get to see, the LCK teams play against. We get to see the rematches. Will Billy win after first stand? Billy never got to play against. Suddenly, MSI is no longer, LCK, is Gen.G gonna golden road? It's like the conversation comes from so many different angles. And to zoom in then on Europe, considering it's like, we always reference 2019 G2, 2020 G2, because that's what we have to hold on to. It's like, it's not like Mad Lions was that terrible in 2021. They took down 1 to 5 games, at MSI. That was like chill, like good for them. But in the context of, beating LCK, like the last time it happened was Gen.G with BDD back in 2020. And it just seemed so far removed. There were moments where we were close, right? G2 against T1 at MSI when they took them to 5 games with the miraculous mikyx Poppy performance. It was always close, but it always seemed like, this is just never going to happen. And we've seen G2 and Caps play against Chovy so many times between the years, whether it's like in best of threes or whatever. It just looked so impossible. And the effect it has when you have one team that is performing so well internationally on you regionally, every damn time when we had a 2019 G2, 2018 Fnatic, the other teams in the region were also really good competitive. So the trickle-down effect on performance is also super massive. So in terms of, the energy that is going to fuel Europe now for the next coming years, both competitively and from a fan perspective, it's just at an all-time high. It's just popping.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time we require magic to happen for a team to get hot. And I don't feel like I think of that when it comes to BLG. I think of such a dominant team. I think it's the same thing with Gen.G. They're a dominant team. They earn it. And if anyone beats them, there was a magic run, right? It's the T1 magic when they get to Worlds. But we don't speak about enough the teams that fall out of having magic. Like the team that comes to mind is Damwon Gaming into D plus Kia, from winning Worlds to then losing in finals, then to losing in semifinals, then losing in quarterfinals, and that fall off from there. And that was, a third, maybe fourth team in Korea. When it happens to G2, who lead the line most of the time for Europe, and have done so for generations of league fans, right? Shout outs to KC for carrying the flag last year at first stand, but then kind of falling off in the same way. It really doesn't highlight how difficult it can be when the magic, the hopium is gone. So I think that's why this is going to be such a big moment here that LEC has the opportunity to capitalize on. And I still think they need to capitalize on it. Just because you have a great moment doesn't mean that you're ready to run with it. There are a lot of people that have, great moments and then they're, that's the end of their career or whatever. Jamada, what did you make of this for, LoL Esports and G2 perspective? We'll dive into the specifics in a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was probably the best case scenario for the esport, to be honest with you. It's no secret. I worked for the LPL. I'm always going to have a soft spot for BLG because that was the year that I came into the LPL when they were battling it out with JDG for the entire year, and they, always played second fiddle to them. And at the end of 2024, we cracked jokes in the LPL team. Once the announcement of there not being an official broadcast was like, if only BLG had won one more international, like if they'd made it, if they'd crossed the line just once in that 2-year span, that maybe the China side would have maybe just kept the international broadcast around, right? Stuff like that, because that's just where we were at in the esport for the broadcast side. But obviously for the fans, we've heard inside of China that there's been like a decline of interest in League of Legends, specifically just the esport, not the game itself, because they've been playing second to Korea for how many years, right? So on that front, it's incredible for them. I think it's got to be one of the most cathartic feelings in the world for BLG, right? Like, I don't know how many times can a team finish second at international and just not crash out. I mean, hell, they have crashed out. We've seen them crash out in multiple different ways outside of internationals, right? So that's a big deal for them. I mean, big ups to Bin. I'll always love Bin. That brother was talking about being the best player in the world. Like that narrative randomly got started for a second. Don't get me wrong. Got the capacity to do that, but off one first stand, let's calm down, let's recoup, let's keep the momentum going before we start having those conversations again. But of course, we know Bin has the capacity for that. We've seen him touch that ceiling before. But for China, incredible. And then obviously for Europe, yeah, Hope was turning into like a dark, like a black market like item that you had to purchase with crypto or something, like you couldn't get that over the counter no more. So for G2 to do it in the fashion that they did over the LCK, didn't drop a single game. Incredible stuff. And frankly, the finals could have easily went to 5 games, right? Like, think about the way the 4th game ended. We won't hop into details now, but they could have easily not just dropped everyone and then ended up losing off of the picks that they lost from the Dragon take. So, I think for Europe, there's a lot of happiness to go around, thankfully. But I do want to remind everyone that even though, yes, results have not gone our way for a long time in Europe, G2 as an organization is the one team that has pretty consistently, by eye test now, of course, it's not the same as results, right? And at the end of the day, results are the bottom line. But G2 have been very close to getting across the finish line many, many times against Eastern teams over the years with the different iterations. Whether it was both worlds, right? BLG 23-24 at the 2-2 mark, they could have made top 8 twice, right? Obviously, the bigger fumble was losing to NRG, but again, point being, like, against the East specifically, it's not like it's been impossible. There was, I want to say it was MSI 24 against T1, the 5-game series. Could have easily won that series too. It might have been the same MSI, I think, because they rematched them and they got 3-0'd. And maybe I'm just mixing them up because it's the so long ago and the series were right next to each other. But there was a series where like G2 had a lead in all 3 games, and I want to say it was the 3-0. They had a lead in all 3 games against T1, and they threw each game in some kind of weird emphatic style. The one that sticks out in my head is Caps on midwave, just on Tristana, stepping up past tier 1 tower almost and just getting flashed on and dying, and that kind of fucked up everything for G2 in that game state. Old callback, I know, but point being, G2 have always been close to giving us something to cheer about. So in that sense, I'm not surprised that something has finally happened now. I think we just got a little bit fortunate that it lined up with Gen.G clearly coming into that series underperforming, but also just with really bad prep. So feels very good for Europe in that front. And I'm glad that we've got something to feel good about now.
That's a great memory. It was the 2024 MSI, Become the Unknown. Or was it Become Unknown? Whatever it was. Over in China.
Be the Unknown. That's what it was.
Be the Unknown. That's what it was. Be the Unknown. And I was like, Become the Unknown. They played him in the first part of the knockouts. It was double elim, so they lost 3-2, and then the second time, you're right, it was 3-0 against T1, both those matches. We're gonna dive into some of your comments here because one, we haven't done that yet this season, and two, it's just funny when we have a tournament where we play a game every day, or if there's a series every day, and so what we say just turns on a dime. And so even before we get to the Gen.G upset, we had the quote, and I think this one was from you, Jamada. Mini Adam said, "What are Diablo and Kellen going to do to Lebrov and Hans?" Well, it turns out nothing XDD, which is true. I would argue that they got to watch and hear. The difference is they got to hear Vikla kind of melting down in the mid lane against Caps, because it was just so tough. You could see at moments where every single player on BNK Fear X just was pressing. They were pressing at the wrong time, and G2 they were so fundamentally sound that they let Fear X throw into them. And whether it was Vikla just kind of getting stuffed, it was Broken Blade getting away with it, then Raptor getting out jungled by Skewmond or not having laners that can help him. And then everyone got to see the bad side of Diablo, like where he feels forced to try and make a play and then doesn't, or he sits the whole first game, doesn't really have the opportunity to do anything. So he presses in game 2 when he doesn't need to, because you have the Nocturne that's running everything. And then, all of a sudden G2 are able to withstand a couple of Nocturne ults, and now they're back on even footing. And Kellen was just a passenger in all of them because of the chaos that was there. So I thought that was a pretty apt callback of the episode. Yeah, people came back for multiple days after that last episode. Here's the next one. Kaneki said, "I came back specifically to listen to the last fragment of the podcast, and I just can't stop laughing from the fact it was recorded 1 to 2 days before Gen.G's disaster class." What? What do you want us to do? At that time, according to Polymarket, there was a 97% chance Gen.G was going to win. 97! There was a 3% chance G2 would lose. There was not a single series that had audience percentages that strongly skewed before a game started. 97% chance. So, yeah. I feel like we were all up in there in the greatest team of all time conversation. So, Yamato, this one's to you from Pressfiend the Pure. Who is here after Gen.G, the best team of all time, got stomped by G2? We would make that same argument, right?
Yeah, like the thing is, the only thing, to walk back any statement would diminish what G2 actually did and what has actually happened. Because strictly from Gen.G's level of play, with the context of Fearless and how strong they've been, like they literally lost more maps in this best of 5 than they did all year long. I think it kind of speaks to itself. And at the same time, I want everyone to remember that Billy stomped, G2 so damn hard, just like a couple of days before. The miraculous turnaround, the context of everything beforehand is necessary, and that's why we talk about all of these things, right? We set up, we talk about what is and what we perceive and what should happen based on that information, just to really paint the story more clear if it doesn't happen. So obviously, I'm happy that people are passionate and it's all game. People can make fun of us all they want. God bless. I make fun of people too that make predictions. Like Jamada saying that Lion will make it further.
There you go, right there.
That's a part of the game. So blessings. And I think the main thing that I hope doesn't happen, is that people want to revise the story of how good Gen.G actually was, because I think it just detracts from the story. It's always the same. I had this frustration when everyone's like, "Oh, LPL is so trash." It's like, no, T1 is that good. LPL beat every other LCK team at this World Championship, but T1 just smoked everybody. Why are you removing from the story by trying to rewrite the past? As long as that doesn't happen, I'm all game, and people get to make fun of us all they want. God bless you all.
Yeah, there was a Reddit post that by Eugene Hanwha Life fan, who also posts everything out of LCK. I don't know how they always do that, but it said Gen.G since Keenan Canyon joined Chovy are 15-13 for a 88.98 win percentage, series win percentage, and you compare that to the SOFGK roster, who was 141.38 at 78.7. So 88.9 to 78.7 win percentage in games. This is the greatness of the team that we're talking about, right? This is Gen.G. And so I think with how dominant they've been, and you just look at that part, 88% chance, 89% basically, percent chance to win a series is just nuts. It's bonkers. And I think part of the magic will also be, we're using magic a lot, will be how they just don't win worlds. And it's just a brutal truth where, let's see, Gen.G's record in knockouts, world's knockouts is 2-2, 8-9, compared to T1's 8-1, 26-8. And they use all of those best of 5 3 losses that they can use in all those series, because you have a ton of losses there in the game category, but they never knocked themselves out. One more stat is just the LCK stat, which is T1 during this period was 96-25, and Gen.G in their period is 63-3. 63-3. It's just insane. It's just insane. But I guess the next conversation is, if they don't win worlds, if this team never wins worlds, could they be in the conversation for best team ever? I mean, can they be considered best team ever? Do you have to win worlds? Are there other teams that didn't win worlds but are considered greater than this team? Right? Because they haven't been as close, like was BLG in that conversation. JDG was a name that we saw earlier. I just find it so fascinating that we get to continue to have this conversation because Gen.G hasn't won worlds. Not an international event. Not an international event. Worlds.
Just want to chime in here,
Yep.
I think there's 2 separate conversations, right? It's like there's the BOAT team and the GOAT team. I think you can't be the greatest team of all time if you don't win the World Championship. That is like out of the question. Gen.G is like the current roster of Gen.G. I know Gen.G, the Samsung, all that conversation. One world at some point, Ruler did, all that jazz.
Yeah.
We're talking about roster specific, right? When it's a BOAT, I'm thinking all about level. It's like, what is the level, the perceived level? That conversation Gen.G belongs in, and for me, might just still be number one in that conversation, just in terms of like peak level, like when they are playing at their best, how good are they compared to the rest of the field? Because I feel like Gen.G, when they're performing their best, if I try to do like some mystery magic boxing in different patches, different seasons, and different teams, and I try to do that in my mind, which is very difficult. I don't have some crazy visualization power like I'm some, AMD fucking GPU, you know. But trying to do that as good as possible, I can still see Gen.G being like the boat team. But the GOAT team, like in terms, I don't know people jump on the whole T1 train Z of GK, but there's a very, very unfair aspect of that is that they stuck together for so long. I think you can only make comparisons by year, because most teams are only there for 1 year. The incredible aspect of the Z of GK roster being the GOAT roster is the fact that they stuck together for so long. We rarely get that. So I think it needs to be year by year comparison. And if it's like the GOAT team, then for me it's like 2015 SKT just comes to mind instantly because they were one game away from completing the technical golden road, which is like the MSI Game 5 with the Morgana LeBlanc against EDG, right? Well, people, random side tangent because that one pisses me off. Is like, you know, the Morgana was very cool into the LB, but why are we pairing Nunu jungle with LB, bro? Like, why are we picking Nunu jungle together with LB in a damn final? Just a random side. That has bothered me for
that wasn't even the
years.
version. That wasn't even the version where Blood Boil gave extra AP yet, was it? That was just
I
like
don't think so. That was just
yeah.
Pick me Nunu.
They just raw dogged it. Yeah.
Well, this is again when we talk about the comparison, it's close but not quite, right? Because they did swap out the bot lane last year. In 2024, Gen.G had Pays and Lahens. And then 2025 and this year they are running the same roster. So I don't know. We'll see how it all shakes up after 3 years of this core of the group of Keen, Cannon, and Chovy. But yeah, I mean, this is what should be the most dominant team in the world. Is the most dominant team in the world. They got rocked up and rocked out 0-3 by G2. You want to weigh in here, Jamada, and then we'll move on?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two angles as well that you could go with, like the best teams, where I think a lot of people consider peak, and then they'll consider consistency and how far they like where they stick. You know, the start and finish kind of just depends on the person, but it also depends on the team, right? Like Gen.G has been so consistent domestically for how many years with relatively the same core, right? It's bloody ridiculous. But then if people talk about peak, then they'll look at teams like JDG 2023. They'll look at T115 or whatever, and they'll make those comparisons. So I think that's always the thing that's going to muddy the water with that discourse and that discussion. Is people also have different ideas of what makes the greatest team of all time, or what makes the best team of all time. To steal Yamato's second iteration of it there as well. So it kind of just depends on how. It's like when people talk about the MVP thing, right? Where it's like, is it most valuable player or is it the best player? Because the best player isn't always the most valuable player. Like, that's just how it kind of sticks out sometimes. So yeah, I think it always just kind of depends on what the rule set is for when you have these discussions, because everyone just has their own idea in their head about what really qualifies, for these titles, and we have these discussions.
This is our show. Make the rules, Jamada. What are your rules?
I mean, my rules. I'm always about the eye more than I am the result, right? So for me, even though JDG never won Worlds, I think they will always stick in my mind as, in that stretch of 9 months, they will be one of the scariest teams to ever touch the game. Period. Besides basically 15 T1, right? Like holistically. Obviously, this version of Gen.G domestically, dGon, what was it? Was it 63-3? What was the terrifying? Like how that is freakish.
63-3, yeah.
That is freakish. I really need people to like get inside their head. They have seen the defeat screen on stage domestically. It don't make sense almost. It almost defies logic.
We get impressed when people duo queue in Korea and they have win rates worse than this, you know?
Yes. You know what I mean? So, and they're doing this against the best teams in the world domestically and individually in some roles too, right? So, mental. So that's for me, like my rule will always be like the context of the year, the context of what's happening in their region, and really just like kind of going to bat off of that. And I know that will always agitate people. And we just spoke about just a couple of minutes ago about revisionism and how like it damages narratives. And I think for me as a storyteller, it's always going to jar me, right? Like there was the big thing about last year, how I say big thing. People didn't really know where to rate T1 throughout a fair portion of the year, and I feel like people greatly overestimated T1 for more of the year than they were actually good, right? Where personally, I felt like it was MSI onwards, whereas other people felt like it was a lot more before, and then also in between MSI and Worlds. Whereas I felt like it came in bursts in their summer split, etc. So this is what I mean. People will always have different, perceptions and narratives, and it's always about making sure, for me, the eye test is the most important thing. Not just like flat results. Though again, when you're a Gen.G and you go 63-3 and around a year of real time passage, like that's ridiculous. So that will always be the rule for me.
Yeah. I know I said Jamada, you'd weigh in last, but Yamato, is it? What is it now that he's laid down the rules?
On my end, like a GOAT team needs to fulfill like every box, and I do think like being the best team is all about peak and just perceived level. It's like who could, let's say, like if we make it very simple, like who could race the fastest, who could drive the fastest, the laps, and then suddenly, when it comes to the World Championship, different pressures are at play, different challenges are at play, and I do think that is where greatness is formed. So for me, like people like to talk about Samsung Y as one of those teams. So Samsung Y was not that impressive in the regular split, like the regular years in LCK/OGN. I don't remember which one it was at the time. I believe it was OGN. So it's like they were not even perceived as a team that would win. Like people thought Samsung Blue would be the winner, with of course Dade being like just so insane at the time. Like in the end, Samsung White caught up and they had an insane Worlds tournament, because that to me is such a different category. Because if someone wants to tell me that the ZOFGK roster is like the best Worlds team of all time, I'm like, yeah, fair play. easily. But if you zoom out, like besides 2022, which arguably 2022, the one time they didn't win the World Championship in the run, right? Arguably, that was the most impressive year, where they had the super dominant spring split, and then coming into summer, it's like in just spanning the year, they had the best results out of the other years, because that's the one year they actually won the LCK together as a group. And then, of course, it was the whole moniker of like, these guys can never win a finals. They can never win a finals. That was like the theme for the longest time. But to answer your question, because I keep rambling, going on different tangents, for me, I think in terms of the best team of all time, in terms of level, individual play, I do think Gen.G lands there. In terms of like the GOAT team, still like SKT 2015 just stands out to me, because they just checked every box. And in the context of the Golden Road, I know it finishes the moment you loses, but they won the World Championship, won LCK twice, right? And they went to finals and lost in a 5th game against EDG. I just felt like that year they just seemed so untouchable through and through. And the fact that they did it for the entirety of the year is what makes them the most impressive to me, because every other team has some kind of a flaw to them. Even Damwon, when they did the run-up and won the World Championship in spring, they weren't winning. They were ramping up in summer. I was screaming them when I was in the LCK. I was like, damn, these guys are crazy. And I could see the greatness forming in real time, but that also took some time. And for me, you always got to look at the entirety of the year, because some of those teams always have some incomplete nature to them, similar to like IG, fantastic at the World Championship 2018. They stomped and smurfed, but the first title came the next year in spring, and then they bombed out at MSI, and they were doing like some pseudo version of their Golden Road in reverse somehow, but somehow they lost to Team Liquid. So I just feel like a lot of these GOAT team stories are just incomplete, and that's why I lean into the SKT one, even if that one is borderline like incomplete because of that one game loss against EDG.
There you go.
I want to close off and just very quickly say it is always why winning will be the most important thing. It's always just the bottom line at the end of the day for a lot of people, but then also just the layman, right? Because if you think about 100 meters, right? Everyone remembers Usain Bolt because he's the fastest bloody man to ever run the 100 meters. But do you lot remember who came second behind him in those races?
Johan Blake.
Lance Armstrong.
You know what, dGon, fair play to you for the Johan Blake, but that's what I'm saying. People, your average person is not going to remember Johan Blake. They're not going to remember
Justin Gatlin is the other one.
Justin Gatlin. They're not going to remember. They're not going to remember Tyson Gay. They're not going to remember all of these different people. Do you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, winning is always going to be the thing that will stick in people's heads the most.
Yep. Sorry, that was what I was going to say. Because of that, and for those of you watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments below your boat team, your GOAT team, and how you define it. I think because I watched so much, American football, and it's not like association football where you have the long season and you have a cup tournament, which is for your one-off show up, day of the game. And then you have your regular season that rewards the elongated excellence. It's about, did you win when it mattered most? And I think that's why that magic of this ZOFGK roster is so fascinating to me. It is so fascinating to me that they got to the top, lost when they were supposed to win. Then and maybe it's also the fact that I was in the building in Korea when they won in 2023 against who was it? 91 Legend. Was it Weibo?
Yeah.
Weibo Gaming.
For 23,
yeah. Against Weibo. And it just, that release of, it was just a big sigh of relief. It was a big sigh of relief after First Blood was given over.
Oh,
yes, at the finals. It was a massive sigh of relief after game one. Like, I think First Blood went to Weibo and everyone was like, oh no, it's happening again. They're going to throw it. And then things started settling in. And then after game two and game three, it was just a celebration.
From on the other side of the window, mate, we were shitting ourselves from the second that BLG lost that series. I don't think I knew a single LPL fan that was like, well, that's good for us. Everyone was breaking it going into that finals. Because it was BLG that was battling Gen.G that whole year. So when Weibo did it, the only copium was, well, you know what? Weibo have been beating JDG. Like, they've been their thorn in the side the whole year. Maybe they can. And then the first game happened, and that was, like you say, it was delirium and sadness on our side.
Yeah. That was a lot on the boat and the GOAT teams. Let us know in the comments below what you consider the boat team, the GOAT team. I think that's the GOAT. The boat maybe is this Gen.G, but also that Samsung white team just looks so dominant at Worlds, but that was such a short time. So I think looking at the 20, what Yamato said with the 2015 team is just SKT is a good angle. All right. Well, now before we dive into a little bit more about First Stand itself, it's time to remind you about our friends over at Drip Drop. Now, my family's visiting here in Korea, and we have some long travel days, including long days where we tour all around Korea, went some hiking, and that's actually where Drip Drop comes on in. It's hydration that keeps up when water alone isn't enough, and you got those long days where Drip Drop is doctor-developed, proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work better, which is exactly what your 2026 needs. Think support for busy days, long workouts, hikes, and everything in between. Drip Drop uses science-based formulas for rapid hydration, so you feel the results fast while getting 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drinks. And Drip Drop is trusted by firefighters, medical professionals, and over 90% of top college and pro sports teams because it's engineered to hydrate you faster and more effectively than water alone. Perfect if your New Year goals include better habits that actually stick. Drip Drop also just dropped Zero Sugar Plus, a breakthrough formula with an advanced blend of 6 key electrolytes, 15 essential vitamins and nutrients, and no sugar or artificial sweeteners. It is the complete package that truly checks all the boxes and then some. There are 16 original flavors and 8 zero sugar plus options that fit seamlessly into your routine: morning, pre-workout, post-workout, or midday slump. Jamada also had the opportunity to test those out. Jamada, what's your favorite flavor? You and your mom's favorite flavor.
Yep, it's the cherry limeade. It just is. Like, we're suckers for it. I managed to steal away the stuff that my mom stole from me originally, so I got my package back from her. And yeah, I've been loving it. It's just helping me stay a little bit more, alert. Like, just generally feeling more hydrated. It's great.
There you go. To make it easy, Drip Drop has flexible subscription options, so you're never stuck without proven fast hydration, whether you're hitting the gym, juggling work, or trying to stay consistent with your January reset. So right now, Drip Drop is offering our listeners 20% off of your first order. Go to dripdrop.com, use the promo code LFN. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LFN for 20% off. Stock up now at dripdrop.com using the promo code LFN. Get yourself better hydration and stick to those New Year goals. Thanks to our friends over at Drip Drop. All right, time to get to the Galaxy Brain Club. It is the first stand, second half. We'll breeze through the LCK matches and then dive into this very great finals that we had. Probably the best match we had all year in game 1 of the first stand finals. Let's get into it. All right. So G2, they have the upset over B&K Fear-X. Let's start there. We don't have to, spend a bajillion hours on it. But when you think about the series, what will you remember from this series specifically here at Jamada?
I mean, for me, it's the Cap Screwmon show, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I think with how I've assessed and looked at this G2 team a lot, whilst it has been like Screwmon driven with Caps, right? I think it's been a very mid jungle centric team. I've always been a bit apprehensive to give Screwmon his flowers, to be honest with you. Not that I've not had faith in his ability, but I've just felt like when pushers come to shove at times at his international showings, I have not always seen the best that I've wanted out of him. But throughout a lot of this series, and especially this game 1, him and Caps running the show. Completely running the show. So in that's where my head is at. Watching Caps as well just kind of run overnight in a lot of the mid lane department, in a lot of the ways that you could kind of talk about the matchup. In an Aurora lane of all things, right? Like, Aurora's a very dominant laner, don't get me wrong, but we've seen Annie do some very freaky things at times. In lane where people are just like kind of disrespecting the damage that it can do, etc. So to see Caps handle, who I think for a lot of us, we pretty much just I would say unanimously just kind of considered Knight second best mid tournament, behind Chovy. Seeing Caps come in and sort of just have his way with him was a very big thing. Very big thing. So for me, that's what stuck out in my mind. It's the G2 mid jungle, and actually seeing them. I don't want to say run circles completely around Shun. Shun was doing his job for a lot of this game, I think. But just outplaying, being the stronger 2v2 over a Knight and Shun that have gone the distance was for me the highlight.
Yamato, because I think Jamada jumped ahead a little bit. What did you make of the LCK series?
I don't know if he was
6-0?
confused. I don't know if he was confused. I was confused.
I was like, it's fine.
I was like, well, fuck it. Because at first he was like, Skimon and Caps were running the show. I was like, what? In the BFX series? Because in the
I was
BFX
like, I don't think so. Caps was like just passengering, but Zico was dying a lot.
Did you? Oh, I thought you said the finals, bro.
I said, and then we'll get to the finals, including that.
My fault, bro. I'm dead.
That's all right. That's all right.
It's all good. You poured yourself out about the finals. We get it. BLG won. We're celebrating on some level. Yeah. The BFX series, I feel like the big shift up, right? What happened is just G2's prep work, you know? I feel like they really, really tuned into what was important in the meta. And I feel like somewhere along the line, it was kind of forgotten because people started playing these very, very heavy 2v2 scaling bot lanes. And I feel like that's something that BFX got really, really good at. Like when we think about the Lulu lanes and the Nico combos, post-stat fact, Nami lanes, you basically play the game 1-2-2 and you drive the game through bot lane in the 3v3, and that's how BFX got a lot of their success. But there are matchups that you can pick in order to make sure that the bot lane is volatile in your favor. And then a lot of these melee supports can have more impact in the 3v3s on mid lane. And I feel like G2 really, really tuned into that idea again, because a lot of teams, there was in the beginning period, people didn't like pressuring through sides because of how easy it is to, of course, spot you through the phaelites. And G2 just went back to the true and true. They're like, okay, we're going to draft pushing bot lanes, lean heavily into it, regardless of how the scaling is of those lanes, whether it's the Varus Braum, or if it's the MF like they played, the MF Nautilus, or just have really high prio on Ashe Seraphine. These are lanes that are very, very strong early on because they allow you to connect in the 3v3. And the amount of pressure that Skimon and Labrov just put on any mid laner in both of the LCK series, it was so staggering. Jungle and support, the way they played was so much better than their counterparts in the LCK series, because I think that both Gen.G and BFX got used to playing through bot lane, play heavy for the 2v2, but G2 never played in a way that allowed them to isolate that. Even though strategically I think they won massively in that read, I never thought that would be enough. Because with the level that G2 showed so far, and with some of the problems we saw from Hans or Labrov or Broken Blade at times, it shouldn't have been enough. But throughout these two series, we can easily say that this was the highest level performance we've ever seen from Skimond, Labrov, Hansama, Broken Blade. For all four outside of Caps, they reached a completely new ceiling because we've seen them get ahead in the early game. That draft when they had the MF Nautilus, I am worried that one mistake happens and then Gen.G just eats you alive. Because that's what Gen.G does to everybody, and that's what has happened to G2 so many times. But the fact that they are capable of converting, nobody's getting caught on the mid waves. They're there on time, on the Drake fights. They actually pull the trigger when it's their turn to do so, and they step in aggressively and, most importantly, very confidently. Because that is required. You need to get the chances that you have to get them through early game, and then you have to actually take them. And that part is the most important part for me, because we saw some individual ceilings here that were broken through and through. Really, really, a lot of props, especially to Hansama, Labrov, and BB in that BFX series. It was amazing. Skimon has gotten so much praise, deservedly so. But these three guys also broke new ground, and the recipe, the vision of what G2 could be, finally we got to see it on the canvas, plain and simple, right there in picture, you know?
I think, you know, and I'm in the group chat with some of the guys here at the LCK. Let's just list these supports that. Let's just list some supports. When you think Kellen, I would think Seraphine, sounds good. Nami, that's pretty good. Alistair, protect your Diablo, that sounds pretty good. Except, that's who Labrov played in every single series. They bit into getting the Nico and being an engage. So Kellen, again, not an engage guy. He's your enchanter guy. Then they put him on Rakan, not your engage guy. What to do and engage. And then they put him on Puppy, not your engage guy. And he's, kind of, that's like middle ground engaged. But either way, it's like you look at the support champs on the other side, and I think it just makes it harder for Kellen to have the impact to enable Diablo the way that he can as seamlessly as if he was on an enchanter. And so that kind of bothered me. Like that from a draft perspective. I don't care how he played, like he did what he could. From a play perspective, God, Vikla went back to bad Vikla and Clear got demolished. And as you said, it was the roaming ability of Labrov and Skuman that really put Vikla apart, and Vikla is susceptible to 3v1 roams in the mid lane because he's so focused on getting every inch that he can. And Caps had some pedestrian series, 2-0-7 on the LeBlanc against Vikla, 3-7 on the Azir against Vikla. And, he was just doing his job and never really stopped doing his job, but allowed the rest of the team, enabled the rest of the team to really carry there. And so watching that series was disappointing because I feel like we didn't have the level of bot lane explosion that I wanted. And as Yamato said, probably a great strategy by G2. Why would we attack their strong point with a pretty strong point of our team when we can attack their weak point with the strongest points of our team? And that is the level of smarts and prep that I think you're able to do against a team like BNK FairX. And then in the Gen.G series, it was just so fascinating to watch. One, let's put Chovy on Galio in game 1. Then let's put Keen on Vayne in game 2. All right, we're out of choice. We're out of chances. Let's really lock in. We got ourselves a real draft. Chovy on Azir and Bessa going to start the fight. Keen can split push and kill everything on Gwen. And then Ruler and Duro on a comfortable Yunara Nico. That sounds great. By that point, G2 was already rolling. They were already warmed up. They didn't feel any pressure. And I think they just straight up outplayed him. And that was the game where I was like, this is one of the best performances of all time by a European team, by a Western team. And it was just so fun to watch. It was fun to watch, despite me being a little salty about how we threw away 2 games in draft. For Gen.G, very, very well-deserved victory for G2. Now, let's move to the finals. BLG, they had I think we could say an easier path in, right? They had their bye. They played against JDG, got their 3-0, where it looked like an LPL series, did Jamada. They were just fighting nonstop, and they could go for objectives they could pull out, but we're just going to keep fighting and pound them into the ground in that game 1. It was, again, from for me, I loved watching it. I loved watching it as just a fan that likes to see the outplays and be reminiscent of what dominant solo queue games look like. But BLG then make it over to the finals. Now we can dive in a little bit deeper now on the BLG side here, because that game 1 was great, but what did BLG do that helped them get over the line here, in your opinion?
I mean, I think a lot of it came down to like individual performance, in my opinion, but then there were also just like a couple of X Factor picks that I think really helped out BLG lock in certain aspects of their game. Like I think the game 2, the Shen pick, just the ability to have the additional, person on side. You're already running you're already running Gwen. I did think that the Zahen pick in this game, because I want to say G2 had last pick in this draft, and I think going Zahen into Gwen Pantheon just struck me as a little bit strange, because from when I've spoken to, and this is going to be a bit of a weird comparison, but when I've spoken to junglers about this jungle matchup, they tend to say that Gwen has favor the later the game goes on. Early lane or early game, Zahen can kind of outskirmish you a bit. When you translate that to lane, Zahen has a weak laning phase. He can't really put down too much pressure in a lot of his lanes, but he scales really well. He can team fight incredibly good. But that then means you're playing a lane that can't really press the issue against Gwen. And then you're getting outscaled on side lane. And then in team fights, it's more or less who gets better entry. And of course, like I was just highlighting, if you try to play side lane against Shen Pantheon, Galio, spoiler alert, man, you're not going to win side lane, right? And that was a lot of my issue for G2. It felt like they tried to play into what BLG's comp was effectively handcrafted to do by God himself, with things like the LeBlanc pick and such. When in reality, they were never going to be able to do that. So I feel like G2 kind of hamstring themselves a bit, and we're relying on, you know, good tempo, good jungle tempo from the Mundo Pantheon matchup, and trying to you know, stack dragons early, etc., and try and make the game feel a little bit awkward for BLG in the mid game if they could stack 2 early dragons and then kind of play from there. But that never really came to fruition. I think the first Drake didn't come until after 10 minutes. I think it was like 13 or 14 minutes. And BLG were always just kind of present at every turn that, you know, G2 wanted to start off one of these objectives in a way where, again, it just made them a bit too uncomfortable to complete a lot of these takes. And then, you know, once we kind of hit the 15-ish minute mark, I think it was the Herald fight, they were already 3k gold down or something like this just through map movement.
Yeah.
But at that point, it's like once you lose that, you're constantly behind. And into all of these globals, this is the thing. A team like BLG have always been, you know, or I say very recently, but have always been all at the same time, inexplicably a ridiculously strong skirmishing team. Their 5v5s aren't always the best, contrary to what you might see when they peak on internationals. But their skirmishing, their ability to just lock in like 2v2s, 3v3s, they're one of the best in the world at it. So when you give them globals like this, and you give the ability of to Shun to just go, actually, you know what? This guy in the top lane, he looks killable. Or I'm just going to walk into the enemy jungle, and I know I've got a Galio ult to slam on top of my head. Or I've got Stand United to do the exact same thing. I think it's just a recipe for success for BLG, and G2 just didn't really have any answers in that game to feasibly fight back, unless BLG threw their lead. And in this case, BLG didn't really give them that window.
Well, they did, right? They tried to. They took Baron and then they pushed. What I liked about that series, that mid game by G2, is they kept it. Both teams were playing to their condition, where BLG were like, hey, we're ahead and we're scaling. It's okay if we just hang out and continue to scale. G2 are like, hey, let's not make it worse, and let's try to find the pick and fight that we want to have. And they kept the gold lead at about 3,000 for about 15 minutes. It was like 3 to 3-5 for 15 minutes. They take one bad fight, they fall behind, they lose Baron, but then at that Baron fight, that's the fight that turned it around, right? They're pushing on the top side of the map, they get caught, and then all of a sudden it was like that 6,000 gold lead turned to like 2.5.
Oh,
and
okay,
then gets caught on the top lane. Skewman gets caught at bot tower because the death timers were so long, and I felt like both teams played to their execution and both teams made an oopsies, but G2 had less slack of an oopsies because they basically didn't have too much of their base left, and then those 2 picks led to the end of the game. But when you speak about their skirmishing power, I think of this Ashe Seraphine game 3 that BLG had, and just Viper and On pressuring Hans and Labrov, those 2 not really having an answer. And then I think there was like a pick in the mid bot river where, okay, who's the first to move? The team with bot lane priority, which is Ashe Seraphine. They go into the mid river, they get 2 picks, and from there the game snowballed out of control. And it feels like the prep started to run out a little bit, and also this is where like the magic started to run out a little bit, because they're up against a team in form who likes to skirmish even more than Gen.G, I would say. Yamato, when you look at this series here for BLG, from the BLG standpoint, how do you remember this series?
I think the main thing for me is just in terms of what G2 tapped into, in terms of where the meta is at and how they need to connect with mid and how they play together with jungle and support and play like a more concentrated game with jungle and support. I think that Bilibili tapped into the same ideas on the other side of the bracket. The way Shun and On play together, that was the only fierce competition that Skimond and Labrov had. Like we praised Skimond and Labrov super much for their series against LCK, but obviously against Bilibili, like it just goes to say how good Shun and On were, because they made it very, very one-sided. I think specifically the jungle matchup, what the current state of jungle now is that for me, it is the hardest version of jungle that we've had in maybe forever in terms of how punishing making mistakes are, because the moment someone knows how to capitalize on that, they know how to pressure you on your next camp spawns, they know how to transition that into dives, into map splits, into getting Six first, into getting Crab first, into getting Drake first. This is something that Skewmon clearly did against the other jungle field. He did it against Raptor, he managed to do it against Canyon. Even regionally, if people remember, Yike was really, really good on KC. But then in the series against Skewmon was winning every damn early game because he was way, way sharper. And now we had this moment in time where Shun managed to do this to Skewmon, who managed to do this to everybody else. This, to me, as I say it, just makes Skewmon's performance as a Western jungler even more impressive in my mind, because the state of jungle is just extremely, extremely complex. And Shun, that Pantheon game, he won the 50-50 in the Mundo Smite. And then the vision for Shun's game for the next 8 minutes is just giga clear. Boom. First, he sets up the dive on bot. They dive bot, and then his bot lane like stays between two towers. They kind of grief it. Like they won the lane, but they focus the Bard instead of going on, of course, the Koki with no cleanse, if you guys remember, between the towers. And then later on, in terms of rediving bot lane, it's such a simple detail. It's like he redives bot lane. Mundo doesn't match because he can't match. He has to go into the enemy jungle, right? And take his Raptor and Golems. And then Shun instantly tells his team, I have to reinvade enemy Golems, because if we give enemy Golems here to Dr. Mundo, he's going to reach 6 first. So we have to fight there. And then you see how Billy tune into that idea instantly. Mundo got the smite, right? He got the 6, but he won the skirmish around there because they were in position. And the vision that Shun has for the game is just incredible. And obviously, like Bin, the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room, that was something that was inevitable. We saw all the Bin classics. We got to see his Jax, his Camille, his Gwen. That to me is the trinity of Bin is having a good time. And I don't think there's a lot of top laners that can hold back against that. It's like Keen in top form, Zeus in top form. But if he finds good angles to pick these champions and he's feeling the rhythm in the game and he has Shun behind him, I think that this is the best level of Bin that you get to see. This is the type of Bin that is in the GOAT conversation for top lanes. But I really, really wanted to highlight Shun and his impact on this team, because I've always criticized BLG for being a team that is not coached. But Danny and now the squad, there's some clear, cohesive ideas of how they bond and connect together in the game. And you can see the DNA of Shun and On, like playing together for so long, actually coming through. So BLG is more than just individuals being insanely good. They're actually connecting together, which is very, very good to see. It makes me, as I mentioned before at the beginning of this, so super excited for an MSI.
Yeah. Probably the best support jungle duo in the game right now in terms of form. Earlier in the season, I would definitely have pushed for Canyon and Duro. Canyon holding up his end of the bargain at the beginning of this form, and not so much later on. But as you said, just making the game easy and following along with how Jun is feeling the game is something that I think any League of Legends fan can watch and appreciate. The way that the first stand champions BLG were able to do their first international win, get that monkey off the back. You could see in the win moment how much it meant to Bin and the Knight. Definitely Bin. Knight's won before, but Bin he had the big pop off as well. So it was just great to see them get the victory.
Bin has won before too, bro. Bin has won MSI with RNG.
But it feels like this BLG roster is built around him. It's built around him, and so I think getting the victory there for this, repaying the BLG belief in him is big.
The king
Danny as well.
To my head, bro. The king shit went to my head. I'm sorry, bro.
God, man, I was like, "You're right. But also, there it is. So the first stand tournament. A victory for BLG, a collapse for the LCK, and great hope for the greatest Western player in League of Legends history in Caps and the boys as we close the chapter there. We're going to talk now a little bit more about some FST through the form of the mid-season invitational, but that's only after we remind you about our friends over at Manta Sleep. Y'all, my family here visiting in Korea, staying at my apartment. How would I be able to get any sleep? Well, that's thanks to our friends over at Manta Sleep. They have themselves the true 100% blackout eye cups. It blocks all lights, even around the nose and sides, for complete darkness with the Manta Sleep Mask Pro. It is great. I use it every night. You've heard us talk about it. The cups have cooling material on your face where it's fully ventilated, sweat-resistant fabrics that keep me cool and comfortable all night. Despite being a side sleeper, the eye cups are adjustable so I can rotate and it doesn't slip off my face like normal blindfolds. It has Velcro in the back to adjust to my head, and the eye cups can move around with Velcro as well. It is fantastic. I use this all the time, every night. I've got one here for my place, one at my fiance's place, so that I never have to worry about sun hitting my face and ruining my sleep, because sleep is such a key part of my recovery to achieve my life goals. So make sure to head on over to mantasleep.com and use code LFN to check out and unlock 10% of your purchase. That's mantasleep.com with the code LFN. Let's read this real quick. With the Manta Sleep Mask, you get total blackout. The memory foam eye cups adjust to your face for a pressure-free fit, and the cooling materials make sure you stay comfortable even if you're a hot sleeper. It's literally everything that I said and have experienced using Manta Sleep. Make sure to check out all their products, more than just the Manta Sleep Mask Pro. They have a bunch of different sleeping aids that can help you out to get your recovery in top shape. So head on over to mantasleep.com and use the code LFN at checkout for 10% off of all your purchase. That's mantasleep.com with the code LFN. Thanks to our friends over at Manta Sleep. I would not be able to survive my parents being here without you. Thank you to Manta Sleep. With First Stand done and the seasons kicking off here very, very soon, LEC, LCK, LPL, and the LCS all getting underway next week. It's time for a little HiKey-LoKey-NoKey about the teams that were left out. So some HiKey-LoKey-NoKey about teams that didn't go to First Stand, but will go to MSI. I think there's a couple of easy ones in there, but now it's the time for some, I guess, shockers that won't make it, and a couple of dark horses. Let's get into it and hear what the king and the birthday boy have to say with this week's HiKey-LoKey-NoKey. All right, Jamada, you can give us your three here: no key, low key, and high key, to make it to MSI, but didn't go to First Stand. And so that eliminates any of these teams that made it or won. So no shockers from our First Stand teams like what Carmine Corp did last year. And what Hanwha Life did as well. It was the curse of the First Stand squads that didn't make it on in. They don't count. So you have to pick another team from any region that will shockingly not make MSI and also have not made First Stand. And then your dark horses.
will make MSI or won't make MSI. Like
will make MSI, but
yeah.
Well,
didn't make First Stand.
The no key will be won't and won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one's a little complex, dGon.
It's not that complex. I just talked too much.
You did.
You could also start with me.
All right, then we'll go with
then, Yamato. Go on. Yeah, you know what? Go on.
I tried to give a gift to the birthday boy.
Go on.
I can give you some grace here as your grace.
Thank you, my lord. Thank you.
All right, let's push out the high key right away. BFX, you're out, baby. Because this was your chance to make it through the LCK.
No.
Hey. Your lead just speaking.
All right. All right. You know what? My leech can just make up the rules of the game.
Why no? It's not bro. It's
No,
not Biryani Blade.
because the HiKey is a team that didn't go to first stand that will definitely go to MSI. The NoKey is a team that
What do you mean,
didn't
no?
go to first stand
Let me
and didn't go.
set it up.
Oh, he said it. He's cooking. He's cooking. He's cooking.
I'm saying BFX is not gonna make it, right?
Yes, yes.
Right?
My
So
leash.
that's a setup to T1's gonna make it. That's my
Oh.
HiKey. There you go. I think in terms of that collapse, I think wrong read on the meta. I think in terms of what BFX tapped into, right? Making it heavy around bot lane in the 2v2s. For the love of God, they were playing Jin and Rakan into like a super range lane, you know? Like, I saw a Jin finishing quest at minute 19, T1. You know, this is the type of shit that's not gonna happen, you know. Like a lot of people in the West, you know, the Western fans are like, oh, they're down, they're gonna be so tilted. No. In Korea, in LCK, things are different, bro. You lose like that, you get motivated out of your mind because the pressure's on you. And I think that T1 is going to be the second best team coming out of Korea, and I think they're going to make it to MSI. I think what BFX did here, fair play, very impressive. But if I want to predict what's going to happen in the LCK, I don't even think they're going to, like, if they get fourth place, impressive. Because I think HLE will end up above them too. It's just nameplate value, new season, a lot more data to be working with. And I think that these teams are going to digest data perfectly. So my HiKey, boom, is going to be, of course, T1. My, was medium key? What was this?
Loki.
Loki.
My low-key, my low-key is gonna be it's interesting because I'm looking at the LPL because in terms of first stand we only have two regions with two teams. I'm looking at the LPL and JDG, Tab and Magic can go very, very far, but I can definitely see a world where AL ends up above them. Right? Why is my man taking off his headset? He just stopped listening.
He just doesn't want to listen to you.
I
King,
can hear. I can hear.
punish him.
I can
Punish
hear.
him.
I can hear.
Hand him a sentence, my lord.
Seize him.
Oh my God! It's gonna just break.
I think low-key, I can see a world where AL end up ahead of JDG at the end of LPL spring. I think that the issue that I have with AL is the fact that in terms of a team, I think the individual ceiling there is quite uninteresting. But looking at how important jungle and support has been at first stand, I can definitely see a world where Tarzan and Kyle really bring the team over the finish line, because I don't see that same level of magic when it comes to, of course, the Vampire and Mr. Junja. I think those are quite inconsistent parts, and I think that Tabe can only do so much when it comes to the prep work. And AL, they fired the coach helper. I don't know who they're bringing in, but that's crazy that they just fired him. It makes Gen.G look even different now. It's like he wasn't on Gen.G for that long. We got to see his fun camera reactions, but then he moves to a different team, insta-fired. I don't know what the hell. I don't know who they're going to bring in, but hopefully someone that can help them out. No pun intended. And then the no-key, I guess the no-key for me, why are you laughing?
No pun intended. It was a good pun. It was a great pun.
Yeah,
you reacted so late, so I thought you were laughing. I was like,
that's how you know it's a great pun. No. It's a great pun when it hits late, man.
No,
I was like, ooh.
I thought you laughed because I'm starting with the no-key. It's like, oh, he's supposed to shut up or something.
No.
Okay, so my no-key in terms of the differences, right? It's like, obviously, in regards to Europe, we have to view them different because they had only one team at first time. But technically, we could say KC and G2 are, the big
like
dogs.
your first stand seeds, yeah.
Your first stand seeds, yeah. I think that's not going to change. So I think MKOI and the rest of the LEC, that's my no-key. Fnatic ain't doing shit. Vitality is going to throw some leads. Na'Vi has capped out. Very impressive. But I don't think they are touching the 1 and 2. I think KC and G2 are going to be the MSI representatives. So my no-key for, anyone changing that up in terms of what the first stand seeds are, is going to be the rest of the LEC. KC and G2 going to make it to MSI.
No, again, not on the Jojo Pyun train and the rest of
Bro, there's no
MKOI.
trains
Or-
in America, bro. There's no infrastructure there. Actually, it's Canadian. That joke doesn't work. Never
No.
mind. Move on.
There's barely
it out
any
of the clip.
in Canada. There's barely any in Canada anyway, man. It's like Toronto
Really?
and maybe
They don't ride
yeah,
moose? How's that?
Oh no, my lord, that's not good.
Oh. Oh, you need to laugh at his joke. Seize him.
What's the plural word for moose? Meese?
Probably moose.
Oh.
I think it's one of those words that has it's the same plural and singular, just like contextual to
The
the
plural of moose is moose. There it is.
Yeah.
Someone clip that. Meese?
All right.
All right.
My HiKey.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a slightly more Western approach as Yamato covered a lot of the LPL and LCK. I have to HiKey C9, right? Like, surely they can't. It can't happen again, can it, lads? It can't.
It can.
They can't miss. This time it's top 2. Like, they can't. Like, just make it to finals. You don't have to win it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to win it. Just make it there this time. You know, just like foot in the door, bang, MSI. I don't want to fall for it again because at the end of the day, they could, like, who knows? Maybe TL get their shit together, right? TL's supposed to be a good roster. Like, lest we forget who's technically on this team, with the exception of maybe, like, I understand if people don't have a lot of high ratings for Jose Diodo, but the rest of the lineup is really good. Name brand for LCS as well. Like, Morgan has come in. He didn't always show like the scrim god, stories that we would get on stage. But sure, there's Morgan. Quid, I think, underperformed largely for the split compared to where he was at last year on 100 Thieves. So hopefully he can bring himself back. Well, I say hopefully, not for C9. C9's the HiKey, but like, that's what I'm saying. That's the only way that it happens, right? Is like a TL resurgence. And that's kind of it, because the rest of the field, I feel like, shouldn't really be contesting C9 like that. So for me, my HiKey is C9, but I'm still concerned. As for my low-key, contrary to Yamato's no-key of the rest of the field, I still have a weird level of faith in Na'Vi.
Oh,
like
he's
this
still
team a
on the
lot.
Na'Vi train.
I still like this team a fair amount, man. Like, now I'm top 2 consistently. It's the reason why they're not my HiKey, right? But in a world where KC go through a rut again, I could see them squeezing some weird shit where they just kind of I think they would have sat down, looked at a lot of this meta from first stand, and I think they're going to return back this weekend with some creative play and some creative drafts. We also have best ofs now, right? It's best of 3s. And so for me, a really big sign for this will be their opening match this weekend against MKOI, right? How they tackle MKOI, I think, is gonna be a very big indicator to me, even though it's like, I don't want to be like a 1-series Andy, but I think it will be very telling of how they're going to approach a lot of their opponents moving forward. Because I think with MKOI, they're a very 2-track team, right? It's Jojo Pyun leads into like yo-yo pressure, and you move that typically towards the bot side, or it's Alvaro Super 2v2 leads, and again, the rest of the team converges there. They're stacking dragons, whatever it may be, right? I think their game plans are very suited, and their players are very suited for this meta. And so I think from a prep perspective, Na'Vi shouldn't come into this series like ill-equipped, basically. I'm not gonna low-key Vitality. I'm not gonna fall for that one. I love them, but not gonna happen. Na'Vi's my low-key. As for no-key, I will return to the East. And I know, well, you said technically we can't pick teams that went to first stand, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I have this weird take. I have a feeling JDG will make MSI now. But I'll then say my no-key... You know what? We'll just stick with HLE. I don't know if it's really a hot take or not. I don't think they're going to get their shit together. And I feel like the top spot is just going to be occupied by Gen.G and realistically, I think T1 will fix their issues because they're a lot easier to fix. Whereas I feel like with Hanwha, not only do they face draft issues, I think they face issues of playstyle too, where we've had that shift from the beginning of the year to the end of winter to first stand. And I don't know how much this team is going to get on with the current perceived meta. And I just feel like Kanavi's too much of a psychopath, and there is no one on the planet I think can rein this guy in. I think he's just gonna he's gonna go. Like he's too Chinese. He's too Chinese now. He can't help himself. He has to go. And yeah, I think another big part to this is that I think Fearless will continue to hurt this team as long as Zeka is on the team too. Unless they find ways to, and this is not like, I don't want to sit on the really boring and very told narrative of, Zeka can only play the melee champs and the assassins. Is that he's got decent mages on him. They're just not as good, obviously, as those champs. But I would really, really be surprised if they bounce back from their winter form. Like this, to me, right now, after watching what happened in winter, I'm waiting until summer. I don't. This is a reconstruction phase for HiKey-LoKey. So again, I'm not sure how hot of a take this is, but I'm no-keying them. I think the top 2 spots in the LCK are just so occupied by Gen.G and a likely T1. And even then, even if it's not T1, right? BFX probably have some learnings to come back from first stand with, right? Excuse me. There will be competition towards the top end regardless from other teams who HiKey-LoKey will have to kind of prove that they can reclimb over. So yeah, my no-key lies with Hanwha.
That's fascinating because that's my low-key. My low-key dark horse to make it in is Hanwha. And I just think that, so last year at Road to MSI was Gen.G, Hanwha, and then T1 caught fire there at the end and nipped them in the Road to MSI final match. And I just think that Hanwha were playing better as after each match, right? And they just ran out of time to gel together during the Gen.G series, right? That was their last series that they played. It was the best of 5, and I think they looked better there. However, because my fiance is a Hanwha Life fan, I get to enjoy watching a ton of Hanwha Life content. And a lot of it got cut down. A lot of it, they made a new series of they just take a player to go out and eat with. And so they had a meal with the player and they all were reflective on the series and the season so far and how their scrims have gone. And it was all very shocking for them. They all recall like the time during the season, very shocking and surprising how poorly things went and how dysfunctional their communication was. And they've turned down other content opportunities to focus on scrims and focus on practice. There were things that were planned to use them for that they actually ended up turning down because they are that locked in to be able to get it right. And I just feel like they are going to get it right. This is a team that is too good to not have work out. And as we've seen, it is an enchanter meta, which Delight is an engage bet. He's better at engage support. I feel like if the meta changes and gets right as well, that will bode better for opportunities for Gumayusi to show what he can do. Because as much as we harp Gumayusi on champ pool issues and whatnot, he's still
he evolved
class
last year.
player.
I don't even think that narrative is a thing anymore. I just want to say that, like, for the record, I don't think Gumayusi champ pool issues is like a big deal. I think
he definitely showed it off at Worlds. Worlds, he showed it off.
Yeah, for 100%. Like, I think that whole thing with Smash and Guma, I think lit a fire under his ass to go, you know what? Maybe I should play a few of these extra champs that are like good right now. Like maybe it would be good for me and my results. And I mean, it was like finals MVP last year, right? Like, you can't argue it. So yeah, sorry, I just wanted to spot in there because I don't even think that narrative is a thing for Guma anymore. Like, I think his champ pool is fine unless we go into like a straight up hyper carries only meta, which can't really happen anymore because of Fearless. Like you're gonna run out of them by game 3.
So that would be my low key.
Okay.
My no key is actually KC. I don't think it's KC the one that can lead the line here. I feel like MKOI with their flexibility, I think with Los Gigantes, with again my favorite coach who does more with less in Gihoto. I think your Navi boys is a good shout. I feel like there's a lot of other teams nipping at the heels of KC.
The only reason why I agree with this is because I feel like the meta should theoretically be a little bit more suited to MKOI than it is for KC. If we're going by first stand meta, right? Because again, the meta can change on a whim, on a dime, drop of a hat with every patch. But also because, and I've been saying this, someone needs to put belt to ass to Calist.
Yes, you've
for
said
this.
that.
For like, bro, how many times from the finals of first stand to now, we have gone 12 months, and someone has not just told him, "Yo, maybe this mid wave we don't step up." Like maybe we look at our tempo lines and we go, "Hey, you know what? Maybe it would be a horrible idea if I took this mid wave. Maybe I could just catch it one time on the tower, and then we can play the next wave." Like it's not instilled in his head. So until I see that consistently, I like this. I like this shout a lot.
And then finally, and specifically with the KC percentage likelihood of it happening here, according to Polymark, it's at 60%, which I'm like, that just feels too high to me for the parity that is in LEC other than G2, right? G2 is the class. They're the best in the West. They lead the line. Everyone else, they've got to reprove it again to me. And I take everyone else over KC.
Wait, they're the best in the West? Does that mean they're better than Lion?
I think your grace, I think de facto it does, yes.
Lion at 89% likelihood to make it out of LCS.
Hey, you know.
Only 8 teams in the region. Barely. I don't even have enough. I can call them 8 teams. You know what I'm saying?
Sorry, Dignitas and disguised the D's.
Hey, be nice to disguise. We should be calling out Shopify, man. Anyway, sorry, continue. Who's your HiKey? Who've you got there?
I think I'll leave my boy Zinni alone. And HiKey, Yamato already hit on it, I think, for his low-key. It's AL. For me, I think this team is, again, too good, underperformed, coaching alignment didn't quite work out. Kind of like, actually, oddly enough, you brought up Shopify. There are coaching staffs that put infrastructure in place, and then they just don't get the result. And I think that's what happened with AL, since they're one of the few teams in the world that did change their roster, that should be humming along with the same level of consistency that other teams in the world that also didn't change their roster, Gen.G and BNK FearX, should have. And what did they change? Their coach, Helper, comes in, and now he's out. So I believe that getting the right infrastructure there for AL to keep humming will lead them back to a top spot for MSI. So that is my HiKey. So HiKey, AL, low-key, Hanwha Life. That's a pretty big low-key. And then my no-key is KC. Let us know in the comments below what you think about our HiKey, low-key, no-key for MSI. Yeah, because those are the big questions here that we have squads as they move in to the beginning of their respective splits. Last topic here will be a keep or kick. As we go back to our friends over at Gen.G, I postured this question at the beginning of our planning of this episode for our friends at Gen.G, because again, they have the Gen.G magic or sometimes the anti-magic. Keep or kick. Is it easier for Gen.G to win worlds now that they don't have the pressure of the Golden Road? That will go to BLG. That is our keep or kick. Let's dive into it. All right, as we pull up the what?
Yamato's face. I'm sorry. Go on. I couldn't hold it in. I couldn't hold it in. Go on. Sorry.
As we pull up the poly market likelihood, percent chances of things happening here, of LCK winning MSI. Oops, that was the wrong one. I wanted. Okay, whatever. Actually, here it is. Yes, the winning region for World. That is. Sorry. The likelihood of the winning region for Worlds. It actually took a pretty big dip here when LCK lost and Gen.G specifically lost on March 22nd against G2, down to 64% chance. But now it's kind of, bumping up and down. Now currently at 66% chance of winning Worlds. That's where we start, guys. Is the pressure off? This kind of superstitious pressure on Gen.G, because they don't have to worry about perfection. They just have to worry about peaking at the right time. Just like every other team in the world, Gen.G has just had this pressure every time because they've been dominant throughout the whole year. Is this just LCK cope here, Yamato?
What are we keeping? What are we kicking? Like, are we keeping a narrative? Kicking a what are we keeping or kicking? Like, who is physically getting kicked? Like,
we're keeping the narrative that it is easier to win Worlds now that they've lost an international event not on Golden Road, or we're kicking the narrative that it is easier to win Worlds now that they've lost the Golden Road.
I'll offer an angle. All right.
Okay.
I'll offer an angle. I do think that them getting punched in the mouth early is good. Rio just came into the team. He gets to see what actually happens when they go internationally. The fact that this happened early is better than later, because now they need to address some fundamental points, right? I don't think it's as easy as saying that Gen.G is a team that chokes, because I do think that Gen.G is a team that relies way too much on their solo laners outperforming their counterparts. Because the way they play their macro is extremely wide. While Duro and Canyon are very good individual players, their biggest strength is not connecting in the game the same way a Raptor and Kellen would do, or a Skymond and Labro would do, or any other jungle support duo for that fact. Usually, Gen.G play a very wide game where if Keen is on side lane and you try to pressure him, you always have two other lanes that are going to leverage that. So when they play really well, it looks extremely suffocated, because every play you do ends up being a net negative because they play on three lanes. But if your solo laners don't outperform the counterparts, which can happen, at international events, you're going to have players that underperform. Even when T1 win the World Championship, right? Last year, they were suffering through that. But the key difference is they are resilient to underperformances of their players. Because in terms of what the foundation is, what they lean back on is extremely strong. What Gen.G lean back on is not so strong, because the foundation of their macro play is spearheaded by the fact that they rely on their solo laners outperforming their counterparts. And 99% of the year they do. But when you come to an international event, you don't get to prep as much, you don't get to scrim as much, you don't get to play solo queue as much, so you gotta be nimble. You got to be able to adapt to the meta, shift to the meta, move in certain specific directions if the wind blows a different direction. And Gen.G is very, very weak against that, because the moment Keen and Chovy are not smoking their opponents and the jungle support the details come through, this becomes a very big difficulty. And now we're hoping that Gen.G recognize this, right? Coming into internationals, they are not resilient at all. I wouldn't say it's only choking. It's just the fact that all the things that they drafted, right? The Vayne. It's very easy to complain about the Vayne, because Vayne, in theory, playing against a mid lane that you don't see, then we can pick Victor. Playing against Varus is hard. You're playing against Zahen and K'Sante, I can see, rationalize that, no problem. But if Gen.G won, we would be like, yeah, Gen.G can just pick whatever the fuck they want. Because that's what they do 99% of the time. They pick whatever the hell they want and they get away with it because of how good they are. But you come into internationals, maybe Chovy underperforms, maybe Keen underperforms. It's not that they play bad, by the way. It's just that they don't take a big dump on the enemy, right? Because that's what they do majority of the time. And I think that's the main issue. They are not resilient to that. And now Rio got to see this way early on. Because in the end, if they win the World Championship, they can lose MSI, lose LCK, no one's give a fuck. What happens at Worlds is what matters. And hopefully the lessons that they get from this is the most important thing. But the whole pressure of the Golden Road, I don't know how much of it. I've never been in that seat. I've never been in that position. I'm sure it matters. I'm sure it definitely matters. But even in that context, right, last year, they didn't win first stand, right? They didn't go to first stand. They didn't win LCK Cup. So it's not like they had everything under their belt the entire time, besides the ramp up of Spring, MSI. Spring didn't even have a finals. So, you know, they didn't even win Spring, technically, even though I think
That's
they
true.
did. So there's that.
I mean, yeah.
So I'm creating a different narrative. I'm not keeping or kicking anything. I'm creating a different narrative.
It sounded like you just kicked my narrative. That's what it sounded.
That's just said. I didn't understand the segment, so apparently I'm kicking it. So I choose kick.
All right, there you go, Jamada.
I guess technically, my stance lands in the kick department too. I don't think it matters. In the grand scheme of things, I think this team is always, by eye and analytically, going to be the best team to hedge your bet on, right? That they are just the most consistent team in the world. Problem is, high stakes moments, internationally, we've not been impressed. Okay, no problem. How many chokes are they really allowed a year? How often does it happen more than once in a year?
Usually it happens 3 times.
No. How many times does it happen in a year normally? On the international stage? Just once.
But there's not that many international events, mate.
Hey, shh. And so I get to my point. MSI, they're not going to win it. But it's not going to be a crash and burn. It's not going to be anything crazy. They'll go to finals. We'll see 5 games. And they'll lose.
To G2.
To G2. Yeah, fuck it. Why not? Go ahead. Yeah, G2, give us an MSI. Just get it in the bag. Restore hope for Europe. Worlds rolls around. They haven't won a title. This is when they cruise. This is when, you know, you're on the autobahn, you see nothing in front of you, bang. Sports cruise mode. They just sweep the whole thing.
Bro, you said bang. I thought we crashed. Continue. Sorry.
We hit the sports cruise mode. That's it. Just in the whip. Smooth. No bumps on the road. That's my feel. I think this will actually be the year where they do it. Where they win worlds.
Yes.
You know, and not to the same degree where it's like, you know, last year, oh my god, they're Gen.G, like, of course they're gonna win worlds, it's gonna happen. Something about, I just feel like the narrative has to end. It has to end, and not even for Gen.G, bro, but for Chovy, it's got to end soon. Do you know what I mean? Like the percent chance of things going on forever just don't feel that high. And I feel like for me, I don't know what it is. It's got to be this year. Like if it's not this year, then like well and truly, it will be never. Like this will be the last year where I'm like, well, like Chovy will get a title, surely, like world title, obviously, because done MSI now. Like this will be the year they'll do it. But I think sacrifices need to be made, and I think the sacrifice is giving up the MSI free-peat. That's the sacrifice that has to occur. Give up the MSI free-peat. Like it's some ritual. Give it up. Go to Worlds. Get your title. You're not allowed, you know, 2 internationals in a year, apparently. Apparently. You're not allowed 2 titles in a year. So just go.
Bro, dGon, can you stop the waffling? Like, you need to chat it as a host. Like, this waffling, he's doing voodoo right now, bro. He's doing voodoo.
Hey.
I mean, if it gets Gen.G, their title,
He's happy. Hey,
and all this,
listen, he doesn't
do
care.
the voodoo.
Hey,
we are multiple years of joke in. Like, if we got to do voodoo to get it over the line, sure.
All right.
He'll do whatever it takes for dGon right now. You know what I mean? Like he'll do humiliation ritual live on the LCK if that's what it takes. He'll sacrifice his dignity. Yeah, 100%.
Jamada, dGon, he just offered you up, bro. He's like, yo, we're gonna do everything. dGon's gonna humiliate himself. He's gonna show his balls on stream. Like,
hey man, I will. Raz, I love you. But Raz has had. He shook his ass on a fucking Team Liquid music video naked. You know? And
I'm just saying we don't get onto Raz. We don't get onto Raz enough for that. By the way, like as a community, I just want to throw that out there.
The NOC should hire him.
Oh, this is good. This is good. This is good. This is good. I like that. Yeah, if they could, mate, they're bankrupt. They can't.
They can't afford that ass shaking.
They can't get him no more. Yeah,
can't be in the club when you're broke. Oh shit! All right. Thank you for going with me for that keeper kick, guys. Yamato just kind of making up his own rules. Jamada doing shaman ritual to get Gen.G over the line. Maybe. I just thought that their other failures were not as embarrassing as this 3-0 to G2. And so therefore, you kind of reset not the foundation of how you play.
They've done their humiliation ritual for the year. They've done their humiliation ritual for the year. That was the three. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to look in between the lines, guys.
Yeah,
it can't get worse than that as a Korean team.
Maybe Riot just controls all the scripts, and there has to be like a humiliation ritual before you like win. You know, similar to like that theory about how they put like all male actors in like skirts on Saturday Night Live.
Yes,
you gotta lose internationally, and they did it to set up for the LPL viewership. That's a conspiracy theory, and now they get the world championship. They made a deal with the devil.
T1, right? They win their first championship, and it was before the scriptwriters really got going. They make them not return in 2024. Then they rifle off 2 more. Faker has his big failure in China. I mean, big failure. I mean, the picture of him hunched over. Think that they're going to get back to the glory days against DRX and then lose in game 5 after Kuma steals the Baron. You think it's back on in that roller coaster of a game. And then they rifle off 3 more wins. Maybe this is it. Maybe it was the clean sweep by G2 as the ultimate humiliation before they're able to get over the hump. Again, according to Polymarket, it is a 64% chance that the winning region of Worlds comes from South Korea, and Gen.G has been the class of South Korea. So an opportunity there for them to potentially get the job done. All right. There you have it, everyone. This week's episode of Power Spike. Next week, only CBLOL and the LEC will have matches started. The LPL has not publicly announced their schedule yet. Haven't been able to find it. Privately, I haven't been able to find it. LCK starts on Wednesday, and then LCS will start next week. LCP also starts next week. Got to give the shout out to the LCP because people get mad if I don't do that. So next week will be an LEC focused episode, our week 1 reactions to how everything goes. You can catch these 2 with their content and their co-streams. Make sure to like and subscribe here at Last Free Nation for all the content that we're pushing out. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.